Okay, I want to challenge something today. Something that sits at the heart of what a lot of people in this community think about preparedness. Something that gets repeated so often from other channels and forums and preparedness groups that most people at this point have just accepted it as truth without really examining it. And that is the idea of when things go wrong, and I mean really wrong, is that the right move is to just ride it out with your family or your mag, lock everything down and stay put while the rest of the world just kind of figures it out. I'm here to tell you that that idea is not only wrong, it's dangerous. The people who are counting on that plan, the bunker mentalities, the lone wolves, the people that say, hey, I got mine and I'm going to protect it to the end of the earth, they're building a foundation that human history has disproven time and time again. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, I think you're going to see something that's going to change the way you view every prepper you make from this point on. So let me briefly describe the Lone Wolf Prepper Plan. You probably already know it because it's been talked about extensively in this community. Build your supplies, you fortify your location, you keep your plan to yourself because you don't want others to know what you have. You identify your small, trusted group. Maybe that's just your immediate family, maybe a few friends. You make clear that when things go sideways, the door locks behind you and stays locked. Now that logic feels sound on the surface, right? You worked hard for what you have. You don't want to be taken advantage of. You don't know who you can trust, so you're better off being self-sufficient and safe than generous and vulnerable. Now I understand that logic because I've been there myself. But here's what that plan actually looks like when you stress test it against reality. You have to sleep every night. Your supplies, your family, your location is left at least partially unguarded. One person or even a small group cannot maintain security around the clock indefinitely. It's mathematically impossible. You'll exhaust yourself within a few days of trying. Someone will get sick or injured, or maybe both. Then you're down people that you were relying on to keep watch. You're going to hit skill gaps because nobody knows everything. The lone wolf or the small group with 6 months worth of food, but limited medical knowledge, maybe no mechanical knowledge, maybe no agricultural knowledge, no knowledge of how to fix things when they break. Those people's runway are exactly as long as their supplies. The day the food runs out, or the generator breaks down, or somebody needs sutures, that's the day the plan ends. You're going to face psychological crisis. Extended isolation under stress is one of the most destructive forces a human being can experience. Human beings aren't built for that. Isolation under pressure produces paranoia, poor decision-making, breakdowns, and depression. The lone wolf fantasy produces a calm, rational individual. Reality produces something much more fragile. The lone wolf plan isn't a survival strategy. It's a comfortable story that lets people feel prepared without doing the harder, more important work of actually building the human connections that survival requires. So let me take you through some history, some real history. The Siege of Sarajevo, 1992 to 1996, the longest siege of a capital city in the history of modern warfare. For nearly 4 years, the people of Sarajevo lived under constant sniper fire. No reliable electricity, no consistent food supply, and no functioning government. The people who survived, not just physically, but as actual human beings, were not the ones that isolated. They were the ones who built micro-communities within their apartment buildings in their neighborhoods. People shared food, shared information, and shared skills. They organized rooftop gardens and formed informal economies. They looked out for each other's children and elderly. The lone wolves, the people who hoarded and isolated and trusted nobody, most of them survived shorter or didn't survive at all. The Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. The immediate response that saved lives was not a government agency. It was construction workers and passersby and office workers who ran towards the rubble and started pulling people out with their bare hands before any official rescue unit showed up. Every major earthquake, every hurricane, every flood, the pattern repeats itself with almost mechanical consistency. The first responders are almost always neighbors. The first food shared is almost always from someone else's kitchen. The first shelter offered is almost always someone else's couch or floor. Community is not just a nice idea. It's the actual mechanism to which human beings have survived catastrophes. And it always has been. And you don't have to go to Sarajevo or Oklahoma City to find this truth. Look at your own area. When the floods come to the Ohio Valley, and they come every few years hard, who shows up first? Not FEMA, not the State Emergency Management Office. Your neighbors show up with boats and shovels and food in their own two hands. Or any official has even filed a report. That's not an accident. That's who we are when it counts. And a prepared community, a one that's done the work, learned skills, stocked supplies, and built trust before the crisis arrived, does that 10 times better than a group of people meeting themselves for the first time in the middle of a disaster. Okay, I want to talk about something that goes beyond strategy. Because a community angle is not just smarter than the lone wolf approach. I think it's the right way to live, and I think that distinction matters. When things go wrong, and I mean really wrong, there's going to be two kinds of people in every neighborhood, every road, every hollow here in the Ohio Valley. It's going to be the people that close their doors and go dark, pull their curtain and decide that their circle ends at their property line. And then there's going to be people who become the light, the family whose porch light is on when everybody else is dark, the neighbor who shows up with food when the elderly couple 2 doors down run out, the person in the community who has the skills and the supplies and the calm that everyone else desperately needs and shares all three of those freely. I want to be that second person. I think you do too. I think this is why most people actually get into prepping in the first place. Not fear, not paranoia, but love. Love for their families that extends naturally outward into love for their community. And here's the thing about being the light. You can't be the light if you haven't prepared for it. You can't share food you don't have. You can't teach skills you never learned. You can't project calm if you're scrambling. Preparedness is what gives you the capacity to be generous. Every can of food you put back is not just insurance for your family. It's the foundation of your ability to help someone else when they desperately need it. Every skill you learn is not just self-protection. It's a resource that your entire community can draw on. Every plan you make is not just for your own household. It's the framework around which your neighbors can organize around when nobody else knows what to do during a crisis. The prepper who hoards and isolates survives, maybe, with their supplies in the dark. The prepper who prepares and connects and shows up for their community, they don't just survive. They build something worth surviving for. So let me give you something concrete, because I don't want this video to be something that fires you up and leaves you with nothing to do. Here's how you build a community starting this week. Start with one conversation. Now, you don't have to knock on every door in your street this week. Just start with one conversation with one of your neighbors, somebody that you already have a relationship with. Not a lecture, not a recruitment pitch, just a conversation that starts with something like, have you ever thought of what you might do if the power happens to go out for a week? Or, hey, we keep some extra food and water on hand just in case. Have you ever thought about doing something like that? Most people, when approached with genuine care and no judgment, are a lot more receptive to this conversation than you might think. The anxiety about preparedness is actually widespread. Just most people don't have anyone to talk to about it honestly. Be that person. Next, know what your neighbors can do. Every neighborhood has hidden skills. A retired nurse, a mechanic, a former military person, someone who grew up farming, someone who knows how to can food, or filter water, or fix a generator. Those skills are assets that belong to your whole community, whether anyone realizes it or not. Start learning what your neighbors know and share what you know. The network of skills in your community is worth more than any single person's supply cache. Build trust before you need it. This is the most important one. It's also the one most people skip because it requires time and there's no dramatic payoff in the short term. Trust between neighbors isn't just built during a crisis, it's built before one. It's built by showing up when somebody needs help moving something heavy, or bringing food by when someone's sick, or waving when you go by in your car and actually meaning it. The relationships that you build now before anything goes wrong are the infrastructure of your community's resilience. Invest in them the way you invest in your own supplies. Host a neighborhood preparedness conversation. Share what you know about food storage and water filtration and basic first aid. Not because you want to be the expert, and not because you want to be the center stage, because a neighborhood where each family has 2 weeks of food is far more resilient than a neighborhood where one family has 6 months and 9 have nothing. Your preparedness multiplied across your community, that's the real prep. Everything else is just a foundation. Here's what I want to leave you with today. The prepping community has spent a long time talking about survival. And survival matters, but I think we've been measuring the wrong thing. The goal was never to survive alone or in a small group, tucked away in the dark while the world outside falls apart. The goal, the real goal, the one that makes any of this worth doing, is to come through whatever comes our way with your community intact, with your neighbors fed, with the elderly couple down the road still alive, with the kids in your neighborhood safe and cared for, with the knowledge and the skills and the trust that was built before the crisis still functional and available for everyone who needs them. This isn't a soft goal, and it's not idealism. It's the hardest and the most demanding and the most important prep you'll ever make, because it requires something that no amount of money can buy and no amount of gear can replace. It requires you to be the light. The lone wolf survives, maybe. The prepared community thrives. And the person who built that community, the person who showed up first and shared freely and held the light steady when everything around them went dark, that person just doesn't survive what's coming. That person is the reason their community survives. Be the light. Stay safe. We'll see you on the next one. Hey guys, all of our videos now are sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Emergency food, water filtration, solar generations, and more. Go check them out. Link down in the description. And if you use that link, yeah, we do make a few pennies, but helps us keep doing what we're doing. Thanks a lot, guys. Go check them out.